Okay, slightly out of tune Machine Man Band, playing the only Christmas song that I know is royalty free, and it's out of tune because it's so cold out here. My hands are numb. But I did want to do a short video on the first robot toys that I ever had as a child, and so we're going to start back in, if I can get the camera where I can see what's on screen. We're going to start back in 1961, and that would be over here with the television Spaceman. Most collectors just call it the TV robot, made by Alps in Japan. This was the first robot I had as a child. My memory could be flawed because this goes back over 60 years ago now. And there were 3 versions of this robot. This was the first version. This is the version that I had. And just a wonderful, wonderful robot. My memory recalls that it was given to me by my grandparents. I can't know that for sure. We have all tin feet, legs, body. This would be hard for some of you younger people to understand, but back in the 50s and 60s, almost everything was tin and metal. To actually have something with plastic on it, especially see-through or translucent plastic, that was magical. So this being a tin robot, but having these plastic claws, has an actual glass magnifying lens for the TV pictures, has this bubble mouth plastic piece here, which is going to give us a fantastic light display. The clear plastic head and the translucent dome. And again, you've got chromed metal antenna on off switch and a metal battery door. So the functions of this were so many packed in a small package. Besides walking, besides moving its arms, besides moving pictures in the TV screen, and changing color bars in this little bubble mouth thing, which I'd never seen before as a kid, and rotating eyes, it also has a cyclical sound, a sequence sound, if you will, a little screamer, which comes and goes and comes and goes. All of that packed into one cool toy. And like I say, the antenna was the on-off switch, which was also extremely cool. And if you haven't ever seen the pictures before, there are pictures in there that slowly move. Here's that color mouth. It's got the rotating eyes. In a dark room, the same light that lights up the pictures and the mouth effect also shines up through holes in the top of the head, and you can see these spooky eyes moving. What a great, great toy. And that was Christmas 1961 as I remember it. I could be wrong, but that's what my brain's telling me. Then again, as I recall, my next robot I had, which would have been somewhere around 1962, and my memory tells me that it was an aunt and an uncle that gave me this one. And of course, this has been reproed, Chief Robot Man, if you will. And the originals are much better than the repros for a lot of reasons, but we're not going to go into that into this video. But what was so magical about this one wasn't just the bump and go action and the fact that it was a skirted robot. What was so magical about it was that it almost seemed alive, because you didn't just turn on and bump and go. It went through a sequence of events where it would be bumping and going, it would stop and pause for a moment, then it would do a little bit more bumping and going, then it would stop, pause for a long time, turn its head back and forth, looking as its ear scanner spun, the light on top of its head was blinking and made a sound, and then it would repeat it. Just fantastic. And again, a tin toy with just the right amount of translucent plastic parts that kids of my age back then just never saw, never had before. 2 D-cell batteries, and it's in the bump and go mode right now, which I haven't got a lot of room up here, but you know what bump and go is like. It just bumps and goes, which you can see down here. Okay, that was the first little pause where it did a little bit of a look around. And here's the bigger one, where it does it longer. like I say, you can buy repros of this now. They look almost identical, but they're not of the same build quality, not even close. It's the same build quality and operation. Then, again, as my memory recalls, by 1963, we're up to now? I think Mr. Mercury was one of the most fun of the robot toys I had, because you actually could control it. You could tell it to walk, you could tell it to bend over at the waist, you could tell it to open and close its hands and raise and lower its hands. And there were 3 different versions of the Mr. Mercury, well 4 if you count Frankenstein. I don't count Frankenstein, but if you did. And different colors, some with plastic arms, some with metal arms, and some with a light up in here. This even had a place where you could put them. So I modified mine as a kid, and I had a light in here. I even put a little grain of wheat light up in the cockpit area. It's on a wired remote. You can see you got a little cockpit area up in there with a little min up in there, and up in there you could see where a light could be. See that piece of metal sticking out? It's not stamped for it, but it could have one. Now the weak part of all the Mr. Mercurys was always this remote battery controller. You can see the back door on this one is missing. The hinge parts are still here, but the plastic back door was very thin where it hinged, and it almost always snap off. And then the 2 D-cell batteries would go in there. And you had these 4 buttons on the remote, as you can see there, and you could control the functions. Now there were 2 motors inside. Let's see. Let's try open and close. So there's the arms. And now, so you could pick something up if you were to bend over and then close it. And then here's your raise and lower. I'll turn it so you can maybe see a better profile. Let's see. It's a little hesitant on the walking, a little sluggish, but trust me, when you get to be 60 some odd years old, you're going to be a little sluggish on your walking too. Then the bending action. See, this is where you could stop and you could pick something up if you were to close the arms on something, for example. Here, let's put a little 9-volt battery there. Well, the foam pads, of course, have deteriorated to the point where they're not going to pick something up. But then you could maybe bend upright again, like so. And then if you wanted to even raise whatever it was you picked up, you could raise it up even further. So it was a fun toy to actually play with. You didn't just turn it on and watch it. You got to actually work with it. Okay, so there was Mr. Mercury. Then I think the last robot I got would have been 1964 thereabouts, and it was the gear robot. Now again, the gear robot has been reproduced too, and it's very easy to tell the reproductions apart from the originals, because the reproductions don't actually have all 3 lights. They only have 2, and the reproductions don't have the speed control. This is not the original knob for this toy. The original knob, when I found this toy at a swap meet, was missing. But it was a knob that I had, and it fit, and it works. The cool thing about this toy, we can turn this maybe the quick way to look at it, is not only did you have an on-off, but you had a quick and a slow. And what that meant was, in the 2 D-cell batteries in the back, in one position it would run the robot off a single battery. And that was very important to me as a kid, because batteries were almost impossible to get. We didn't have any money. If you got a battery, it was because somebody put fresh ones in their flashlight and they gave you the old, you know, pretty much dead ones. So this was a great toy because you could almost always scrounge up 1 battery somewhere, but you might not always scrounge up 2. So in the 1 battery mode, you can see the lights are very dim. And they moved sequentially, which was fascinating me. It wasn't just blink left and right. moved actually across. That's the slow mode. You could actually, if you could find one battery, you could still play with the robot. And then here's the quick mode, which is, you know, both batteries. So you had walking, you had spinning gears, but most importantly to me as a kid is the sequential lights. Very, very cool. Very well made robot as well. The tin, again, with just the right amount of clear and translucent plastic parts, which made it very, very special. And so there you have it. Those would be my first 4 years of a child getting into robots and robot collecting. I had some of the most classics that you could have. I was just very fortunate that I had grandparents and aunts and uncles that were willing to get me one special toy for Christmas for those first 4 years in the early 1960s. So, hope you all have a Merry Christmas and see you next year.